Well, this item came to us 2 years ago, and it came with a different name. And we thought that it was not appropriate at the time, so we sent it back for additional research to be done. And let me say at the outset that I respect the Race Relations Committee. I like to say that I'm an alma mater of that committee, because I used to be the chair and then I became a city councillor from that. So I'm quite familiar with it. I'm also very respectful of all advisory committees and the members of the advisory committees. And the reason I have to say that is because some councillors around, some of my colleagues around here, feel that when an advisory committee makes a recommendation to us, we're obligated to accept it. And I disagree with that. We do look at it, and we probably accept 98% of those recommendations because we feel that they've done the work and we respect the work that they do. And for this particular one, I feel like they've done some work and I respect the work that they do on this committee completely. But I don't respect this change. First of all, anti-oppression is not the appropriate word. And I think that you should all look up the word oppression with respect to suppression and any of those words. And it just does not fit what we're trying to do. But more specifically, we live in a time when racism is rampant. And there was a time a few years ago when it quieted down. And then about 3 years ago, it started peaking again. And you only have to read the papers and hear the different people talk about racism over the past, let's say, year. And you know that it's not an obsolete word. If you don't have race relations or something to do with racism in this title, you will never have people of color applying to be on this committee. And all you have to do is to go to the committee meetings today and see how many people of color are a member of that committee. I mean, you only have to sit here at the day when the 5 people presented it and look and see how many people of color were in the group. The pictures are on the internet. Some of my colleagues put it out on Facebook. I wouldn't have put that picture on Facebook, not for this purpose, at least not for changing the name, where you remove the word race relations and substitute it with anti-oppression. I don't know of a person of color in this city who would agree that they are oppressed. In fact, I don't know of anybody in Canada of color who would agree that they are oppressed. And yet they told me that this is an appropriate word. Well, from my perspective, it is not appropriate for people of color, and it's not appropriate for the 16.1 visible minorities who live in this city. And it's not appropriate for all the visible minorities who live in Canada, who represent a part of this population. So I believe that what this is going to create is a divide. It might be an invisible divide because, like I said, there are lots of people who won't pay much attention to it now because they won't even see it. So they won't even realize that this name that is coming up has to do with them. Some people may not recognize it, and other people will. And they depend on somebody like me to stand up here and say to you, it's the wrong word to use, it's the wrong thing to do to change the name of this advisory committee. This advisory committee started a little over 25 years ago. And it started because we wanted to have racial harmony in this city. And for a while, it succeeded. Let's not erase that success, because that's what we're going to do. And if you want the Race Relations Committee, or whatever we want to call it, diversity, inclusivity, and whatever else we want to call it, If you don't have race relations in there, I guarantee you, you will hardly have anybody of color or any visible minority applying to sit on that committee. And the whole intent of that committee was to have that segment of the population being a member. Look at the committee over the past 6 years. Watch how many people join and quit. Look at who they are. They're mostly people of color because there was something going wrong with the committee. We've got to bring it back to the days when it stood up for race relations and human relations in our society, when it worked. It's not working right now, and this is going to destroy it. Thank you. So I ask you to vote against this name. Send it back for a relook. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Councilor.